All right, we are back.
Hi guys, we're in it to win it today.
We're in it to be
Um,
banned today. That's what we're in it for.
we're gonna get in so much trouble.
Oh, we are. I already know it's coming. So, yeah, we'll just let everybody starting to sync up. So we'll just let them all jump in. Um, while we're doing that, how's Lindsay this week? We haven't talked much at all.
No, I've been super busy trying to get my kid with his new medication at school, which is supposed to be helping. My super smart autistic child is not doing well. He's failing everything because he has ADHD and refuses to go take his medication. Refuses. So he disappeared one day, the first day that we took it up to the school. He didn't ask the teacher for permission to go. He just went. Well, he comes back and she says, "You have to tell me where you're going, so that I don't worry." And he took that in his autistic mind to, I'm not allowed to ask again ever. So he hasn't been taking it,
Oh,
and as a
so
result, he has been failing and is failing all of his classes. So
so sorry. I mean, I've never had to deal with that with my children, but I know of others that did, and it's tough, man. It's tough. I feel for you. So, yeah, it's been not to minimize what you're going through. It's been a tough week for me too. Especially dealing with what happened in Western North Carolina, Tennessee, South Carolina, Georgia.
and on
Uh,
top of course, all of that, even though my husband, Mr. Squirrely, is home, he hasn't actually been home very much because they're building crews to send for the
to
relief effort. So,
yes, and if you would relate to him and any other service members on here, thank you so much. I know he's in a C5. They've been landing C5s in Hickory, North Carolina, which I right now am tentatively scheduled to drive to Friday to bring supplies in my minivan. However, right now they're telling us they don't want us to come because they have no one to unload it. So um, we'll see what happens with that, but I may be driving up there myself. But Hickory is not far from Asheville, 45 minutes, give or take. Probably an hour from places like Chimney Rock. Um, and that relief effort and all that they're doing, bringing that in through the airlift, is much needed. And that's kind of what I want to talk about today. Is kind of celebrate what is going on, and in the sense that people have stepped up, but I especially want to celebrate the men who have, because as we're doing this show, the latest numbers I found were five first responders have lost their lives already, and it's probably going to be a bigger number. I do have people that live in that area that I know, and it is mind-boggling to hear their stories and see their pictures.
well, I mean, as a society in general, we all know that men are get y'all have like the worst cheerleaders ever. Uh, you usually only, which is odd. I would think that y'all would be getting more recognition now, just because, in my experience, men get all the recognition in the world when they're helping women.
Yeah, yeah,
Um, but we also need to talk about the fact that women are trying to steal your moment and
you went there already?
I
Wow.
did,
4 minutes
because
in, she's already going there.
y'all, I have been reading all of the comments under all of the, at least on, I have a pretty good group of people around me, and they have all been shouting out to the first responders and the guys, the firefighters, the EMTs that are in boats and scuba gear trying to get to people, uh,
Police
going
officers.
into houses that are being swept away actively down what didn't used to be a river, and people are in the house. um there's posts all over the place, uh praising them as the heroes that they are, rightfully, and then there's the comments.
Yeah. Some of those comments, I just, and I'm not gonna lie, I stirred it up a little bit. So I did a post just so people who are watching know. I live about 6 hours away from. We already got restricted.
Record.
No, it's not a record, but
No, it's not really a record, but we
um,
actually don't mind that too much because the more people are offended by what we have to say, the more right we know we are.
so the fact that we are praising men, let this sink in, people. This is exactly why we're doing this show. They are flagging us for praising men and celebrating what first responders are doing as they rescue people. Let that sink in.
A
TikTok
moment of
in particular
silence,
has a
y'all.
problem with that. Someone, anyway. So I've submitted the appeal. It's not going to go anywhere. I just submitted it again because it's just kind of hanging there. But it tells you all you need to know, right? That's why this show needs to be done, because I'm sure they're going to take it down on TikTok. So those of you watching us on TikTok, because we're live on TikTok, X, YouTube, and Instagram, I can pretty much guarantee you TikTok's going to take this down. We've already been warned. And I'm on their shit list to begin with, as it is. They are actively and openly throttling me. They aren't even trying to hide it. So if you're on TikTok, do us a favor, share this, because it's the only way it's going to get out. They are not going to send this out in the live feed. And we'll see what happens with the appeal. But um, how that's exactly why I wanted to do this show, Lindsay. How do we get to the point where people are reporting?
Oh, we got one already. We got one in the comments already that's saying she was, please take a look at history. Honey, sweetie, child, Clementine, darling, dear.
Oh dear God, that's probably who reported us.
You are not nearly as smart as you think you are, ma'am. And if you want me to take a look at history, I suggest you take your own advice first because men have been shat on for the entirety of human history. Women, however, have been praised to high heaven for doing the most ridiculously simple of things.
We're not even, Lindsay, we're not even allowed to praise each other. They're getting upset over that. What does that tell you? Why women, whoever it was that reported this, if you're listening, and I'm sure you are, and those of you that are telling us to look at history, why are you so offended that you need to report us for praising men who are responding to a natural disaster and saving literally thousands of lives?
And even if we're going to pretend that men have not been shat on throughout of history, which they absolutely are, if you look at the number of men who die every 10 decades or so, or decade or so, or whatever, all the massive, wars, look at who the victims of those wars were. Women were spared the reality of war and have for almost the entirety of human history. Men are expected, up into and including royal men, were expected to go out to the battlefield and die. So, again,
Just,
but even let's pretend that all these atrocities and men were praised to the high heavens in history. Does that somehow negate the fact that men today shouldn't be praised because of the actions of men that were praised before them? Aren't you supposed to recognize goodness when you see it and say, oh, well, we're not going to. Can you imagine trying that shit with a woman? We're not going to praise modern women for their achievements because these other women in the past already got praised and we're only allowed to praise them once a century.
I mean, well, first of all, that smartass, because he changed his name on us, sent a tiny diny. So, ready? Roar! Say hi to Dino.
Hi, Dino.
This is Dino. So he's my granddaughter's. He's not mine. But there's your roar, smartass. It's just, and this is an example, right? Them reporting us is exactly what I'm talking about. Why I wanted to have this discussion, because look, I will be the first to tell you it's not all men responding to this natural disaster. There are absolutely women doing so, but the reality is the overwhelming majority of them, by far, like well over 90%, are men. The ones that are really out in climbing mountains, the ones that are, as you mentioned earlier, jumping into rivers, doing all that stuff, are men. And the fact that we can't acknowledge that fact and praise those men for being so selfless tells you all you need to know about how people view men in society. You know, um, like even this is a whole, like Brienne just said, this is a whole show of pick me and victim mentality.
Oh,
That's exactly
shush.
what I'm talking about, right? She's so offended that we dare to praise men that that's what she says. Now look, I get it. Lindsay, you're a pick me. We know that, right? And
Proudly.
we get that those that say it because no one's ever going to pick them. We understand that, right? But imagine that. Imagine just how you have to view men to say something like that when you're trying to celebrate men. It speaks to what today's modern women think of men.
I'm
That's
gonna get in a lot of trouble for this, but ladies who say that, who get so upset and offended when you praise one, y'all are honestly showing how dumb you are because you think in your tiny little childlike mind that if I'm praising this person, I'm automatically denouncing or demonizing this person. And this is what I do with my children. So I have an 8-year-old and a 10-year-old. And if I praise my 10-year-old for doing something, the 8-year-old gets mad because, well, why aren't you proud of me? I am proud of you, but right at this particular moment, I'm praising your brother. You haven't done anything right at this particular moment. I praise you all the time and don't praise your brother. But in his childlike mind, to praise one is to basically tell the other one you're worthless. So, ladies, those of you who are out there that are caught in this childlike mentality, y'all are proving the misogynists right. You are playing in to
yeah,
the
that's the way to play it.
stereotype that women are emotional and irrational. Y'all are proving them right. Stop it. You're making the rest of us look bad. I'm done now.
Smart ass had a hat and mustache.
Yeah!
So every time you send, if you're on TikTok, because it doesn't apply on the other three, but if you send us a hat and mustache, Lindsay has to go yeehaw, and the tiny diny you saw with me. So thank you, smartass, for both of them. You know, again, what originally stirred it up on Facebook primarily, because I did a video about 2 weeks ago. In fact, I think it was 2 weeks ago today. So where I live is in southeastern North Carolina. So you probably saw the videos a couple of weeks ago of flooding, Carolina Beach being the primary area that got hit. And we got hammered. And I don't want to minimize that or in any way minimize what happened in the western part of the state and Tennessee and so forth, right? They're two entirely different things. But I made a video at that time because I was down there helping, right? I had a buddy of mine who lost his entire bottom floor. It flooded. I was down there helping him. I was helping some other people. And as I was driving around and watching what was going on, I saw literally just men helping out. When we were watching people trying to be saved, right? Because the flood came in pretty good, and we're right off the ocean, so it wasn't just rain. The ocean came in because it was a perfect storm, pun intended, because that time was a full moon, so it created what's known as a king tide. So we not only had the king tide come in, which floods many roads, but then we had 20 plus inches of rain on top of it. Um, Nowhere near the devastation of what's happened in the other parts of the state. And when I say state, understand I mean also Georgia, Tennessee, South Carolina. I'm not trying to minimize them, but I live in North Carolina. But it was the men who responded. It was the men who stepped up. It was the men who were out in the middle of that storm, saving people, saving dogs, up on the power lines, trying to restore power, doing everything they could to clear the sewer lines so that the water would stop rising. And, you know, no women. And I said, "Where are you all?" And the women got upset at me for daring to point that out because, they all want equality in the boardroom, right? Boards should be exactly half. Upper management should be exactly half. But when it comes time to literally saving lives, it's the men who step up and they get little to no appreciation for it in general.
But I think the irony also is it's not just that the men aren't getting appreciation for it; it's that the women are trying to equate their contribution when they are contributing,
Fair point.
but they're trying to equate their contribution to the men's and say they're equal when they're not. Staying home and cooking on a campfire stove because you have no electricity and going back to your pioneer days, that's not equivalent to a man tying a rope to one tree, tying the other end around him, and then wading into speeding fast, high water that you can't see with debris in it, trying to get into a house that is also floating down the same, it used to be a street, now it's a river, to get someone who's inside. You cannot equate those two. That's like, I made a sandwich. I need a medal because I made the sandwich, and it's the same as being in the trenches at Normandy or the beaches at Normandy. You can't compare the two. Yes, you're both contributing. You're doing a
Right.
part. And maybe that's the only part you can do. But you do not get a medal for an equivalent medal. That's like, ladies, y'all want a participation trophy. Look, we helped. Yeah, you did like the bare, y'all did the bare
There it
minimum.
is. Oh, I know. That was good. Well done. Well played, sir. Well played.
And y'all want a parade. And it's like, no, we're going to give a parade to the guys who, again, are wading into fast moving rivers, who are taking little dinky speedboats to try and rescue people. Literally trying to fight the current to get upstream to help people who are up on power lines, who are up on power lines while the water is still rising. That is a recipe for disaster. Electricity and water do not mix.
No,
And
they do
yet
not.
they're still up there trying to get electricity to work because the hospital is flooded and the ventilators have all turned off. Or the people who are wading into the hospitals to try and get patients out on helicopters. The helicopter pilots that have showed up, and we're talking about the for fun,
Dozen,
the for
dozens
fun,
of them. Yes.
the for fun pilots in their dinky little helicopters that are now executing almost military precision landings on the top of buildings to get people out. I don't see women doing the same. I'm sure there are some out there. But what I do see is a lot of women trying to take what they are doing, which is less than that, and say, we're doing the same. No, you're not. You're trying to
That's the
compare
point.
2 to 50.
And that's the point. Like I said, I was down there helping my buddy and helping some other people out. Is what I even remotely think that what little bit I did compares to the guys that were out, the Carolina Beach firefighters that were out literally in water up to their neck at times, saving people, saving dogs. No, not even close. If they let me drive out Friday with a bunch of water and whatever supplies they can stuff in my minivan, to, is that little bit that I'm doing in any way comparable to the absolutely heroic efforts that those helicopter pilots are making, um, that the police, fire, all the first responders are doing, the guys that are literally risking their life and limb. I would never, ever expect to be thought of in any way, shape, or form anywhere near to the level of what they are. But yet, like you said, that's not how a lot of people are viewing it, right? They're saying, well, I'm home taking care of the kids and making the sandwiches, and if you want to see something, oh, go to my Facebook page, right? Where I did. Lindsay's cracking up because I sent her there a couple days ago. Go to my Facebook page. Men Need to Be Heard. It's on Facebook. And I did a video, like I said, about 2 weeks ago. Look at the comments on it and look at how many women are trying to take credit for how awesome they are and literally saying, well, we're staying home, taking care of the kids, doing laundry, and making sandwiches.
So,
Literally, it's not me saying it. It's not Lindsay saying it. It's them saying it.
which
Can we give a
these
little love
same,
to the men?
the same women who are saying, praise us, we're making sandwiches a month ago, would have been so angry if someone had asked them to make a sandwich.
That would be oppression, Lindsay.
That would be oppression. And
That would make them
but
pick me's.
it actually reminds me quite a bit of why I am not friends with so many
Oh,
of the my husband's squad's wives. So there's a really bad habit of military wives to try and take credit for their husband's achievements as though they are their own. Like, I
Really?
would never ever drive up to, well, first of all, my husband's enlisted, but he's not, he's a non-commissioned officer, so actually he does like a little bit more than some of the
Well,
officers.
he does all the real work.
He does all the real work, but
What do they
I
call them?
have
Snake
seen
eaters?
women who their husbands are staff sergeants, which is in the grand scheme of things nothing, who have told the people at the gate, "Do you know who my husband is?" And the gate person, who is
Oh
also in
no.
the military, by the way, is going, "No, and I don't care." Like, or their husband is out, like Mr. Squirrel is out all the time. He does a lot of humanitarian effort. The plane is huge. Do you know how many pallets of water can fit on a C5? Better yet, how many helicopters? I've seen the C5 give birth to no less than 3
Yeah.
helicopters. Um, but I would never try and say, I'm doing all of this.
Right.
I would never try and claim my husband's achievements and his efforts as my own, because I have this little thing called, oh, what is it? Oh, yes, integrity. Um, but I see so many, and it's not just military wives, it's also first responders' wives, too. Police officer wives, firefighter wives. They're like, my husband's out there, and it's a joint effort. It's a joint effort in so much that you stay at home and take care of your house so that he can go out and do his dangerous job. But don't pretend, Patricia, that you making the baby's bottle at 3 o'clock in the morning is equivalent to putting on 100 pounds of gear and running into a burning house. The two are not the same.
And
Yes,
that's
you're
the point.
helping. Yes, you're helping, but you can't compare, you can't, it's literally comparing apples and oranges. You're trying to equate two very dissimilar things.
It's stolen valor, in my opinion. Right?
Yes, that's
Is
a
the way
very
I would,
good way of putting it. It is stolen
because
valor.
look, we're not trying to say that what women do doesn't matter. It absolutely does. Without question, it does. But can we just show a little love to the men? Just can we just show a little love and not have to give praise to the women? That's all we're saying. You're talking about like first responders. There are first responders out in the mountains right now who have not seen their families, who, by the way, were devastated also in days. I've talked with a couple of them that I know. One just got back because where I live, they sent out rescuers. They sent out the ocean rescue team or whatever. I forget the exact title. Out there. Think about that for a second. They sent an ocean rescue team to the mountains. That's how bad it was. And one of them got back, and I was talking with him. And um, I don't want to get too morbid with this, but what you're seeing on the news doesn't even begin to tell the tale. It's There are bodies everywhere, and they're bypassing them because they're trying to get to the living, as he said it. Now they're starting to get to them. The death toll last I saw in North Carolina was around 100, give or take. He thinks there's over 1,000 bodies. That's his estimate. Can we just show a little love for those guys that are going out doing this stuff? That's my point, right? I don't want any credit. The little bit I've done doesn't count as far as I'm concerned. It doesn't. Um, but I see these guys. Their families are suffering. They're walking away from their families, in a manner of speaking, to go help others. To me, that's I don't want to say the ultimate sacrifice because obviously the ultimate sacrifice is giving your life, but it's right below that. And how many
But
people would actually
they're
do that?
willing to give their life,
They're
though, because
willing to give their
they
life.
well, they might not come back.
You
They've
know,
signed on that dotted line. They bought the farm. Of course, we always want them to come back. We don't
of
want them
course.
to give the ultimate sacrifice, but they are still willing to do so because they know the risks, they know the dangers involved, and they're still willing to do it. I see, unfortunately, a lot of women who they want the praise, but they aren't willing to do the thing that gets you the praise. And another thing with the stolen valor, which is a wonderful way to describe this phenomenon, by the way, is it's almost like they want to be included so much. It's I want to be part of it too. all right, you can be part of it, but you got to do your part to be part of it. No, I don't want to. I might break a nail.
Well, yeah, I mean, yeah, that's been my line is be careful you don't break a nail making sandwiches. And hell, which one's that one?
I don't know. It's the big one, I think.
And so she just muted, so I'll keep going. Uh, and again, we're not trying to take anything from what women are doing, and there are female first responders out there. I'll be the first to tell you that. But literally every video I've seen, every SNR team, search and rescue team that's out there, is 100% male. And my point with this whole thing, and the reason I mentioned it to Lindsay, that this is what we need to talk about, is that that's not being pointed out, right? And it's about time that we do, because men are giving of themselves. We talk all the time, we hear about toxic masculinity and how horrible men are. When people are desperate for help, when lives are on the line, who's the ones that shows up? Every single time. Men do. And yet you're going to tell us we're toxic.
Well, I think that it's a case of, in many cases, first of all, I don't personally believe there's anything that what they're calling toxic masculinity is.
Obviously, but
there's no such thing. There's toxic right. behaviors that manifest differently in men and women, but more than often it's just toxicity. But a lot of the things that they're calling toxic traits are only called toxic traits because the situation, they're traits that don't fit the situation. A man in an office is going to exude different desirable traits in that environment than a man climbing up a power pole in the middle of a natural disaster. The traits they claim that are toxic are kind of the traits that are on hold for when the really does hit the fan, because you don't use all of your traits all the time, right?
Right. Well,
I don't use all of my traits all of the time. It depends on the situation, but outside certain situations, men still possess these traits, maybe in diminished quality or quantity, because again, the situation doesn't call for it. And women are saying, well, they're bad because the situation doesn't call for it. You should be more feminine in these situations because we've decided that that's the way to go. I'm like, okay, Patricia, what are you going to do when the water's up to here? You can't see through the water. There's debris hitting you everywhere. Who are you going to call? And it ain't going to be Ghostbusters. You're going to be begging for that toxic masculinity because Steve, who works in an office and sits at a desk all day, doesn't possess the ability to pick you up and carry you out of your drowned house. And I think that's what they forget. I think that they forget that there's certain desirable traits for different scenarios.
Well, the traits that they put down about men are the very traits that are needed right now in these disasters.
Well, yeah, right? That's exactly what I'm saying. They think that the ultimate man is, Steve, who works in an office. No offense to anyone whose name is Steve.
I was going to say every Steve just went, what?
Steve, who works in an office.
Use Dan, because then it can be me.
Okay. Dan, who works in an office and has, really nice fingernails and cuticles and, lotions his hands, all of that sort of stuff. It's really hard to grip a tackle box with lotiony hands, guys. It's really, really hard, but teach their own, ladies, teach their own.
This is a family friendly show. Let's keep it there. Okay. I know what they're going to do with that now, Lindsay, with the lotion.
But it puts the lotion on the skin or it gets the hose again. But in the traits desirable in an office building are vastly different than the traits that are desirable in a natural disaster or any disaster. I can guarantee you that the traits in an office building would have done absolutely no good on the Titanic as it was sinking. It would have been great while they were steaming towards New York. But once it hit that iceberg and started to go down, suddenly all of the first class men were like, what do we do? And the third class men were like, this is what we do. So I think that, y'all ladies just need to get your heads out of your ass.
Yeah, I mean, again, do I have more capabilities than some? Sure. I am, I never took the test. I'm not certified, but I went through EMT training many years ago, right? I remember a lot of it. And it was funny because when I called the other day to say, look, what can I do to help? I'm willing to volunteer and all that. They were asking me, are you certified? Blah, blah, blah. Because they're looking for true certified people. And I'm like, no, I'm not. We appreciate your effort, blah, blah, blah. We'll keep you in mind. And then, like I said, that, I've been dialoguing with them about driving out with that. But I am nowhere near what those heroes are that are jumping into rivers, that are Chimney Rock. For those that don't know, was an amazing town. I just visited it 2.5. Well, yeah, 2.5 weeks ago, right? And the people in there are the nicest people in the world. They are just so friendly, so outgoing, so welcoming. And I get, because I've had people say to me, yeah, but that's a tourist town. And I live in a tourist town. We're not so outgoing, just so you know, compared to them. And I sit and think about some of the people that I met when I was out there, right? I think about, we had this awesome waitress, young girl, probably 25 or so, give or take, who was the sweetest thing ever. Hey, sugar, what can I get for you? All that stuff. Couldn't. The, and I sit here wondering what happened to her. Is she alive? When we stayed at the Airbnb, um, that Airbnb that I stayed at no longer exists. It's gone. It's literally been wiped off the face of the earth. And I see this stuff, and then I see these guys that are just dropping everything to go help these people, and as they should. And I wish I had the ability to do so. I don't. Um, those men cannot be praised enough, and that's my point. Because as I was watching the news, they'll say, "Oh, we're celebrate the first responders." Yeah, that's true, but let's understand the depth that they are, in some cases, literally diving to help others. And again, I want to put that and juxtaposition it with how we treat men and view men in society, right? They're viewed as awful. They're of no use. How many women do you hear out there making videos that we don't need no man? We're strong and independent. Blah blah blah. Where are those women now? Oh, right. They're making sandwiches and wanting to be praised for it.
Squirrely did not squit. Squirrely did not quit. Squirrely got a call from her child's pediatrician that she had to answer. Thank you
You
very
got to do
much.
what you got to do. Real quick before we move on, because hold on, let me put this up. Do us a favor if you're enjoying the show. If you agree with us or don't agree with us, even give us that thumbs up. Hell, give us a thumbs down. I'm okay with it. It still helps the algorithm. Share the show, guys. If you're on TikTok, do us a favor. Share this. They are throttling this show. They are not pushing it out. In fact, I can tell because the numbers are showing we're essentially cut off. I mean, there's a few people. When we first went in, it was person after person joining. Now is very, very few. So do us a favor if you're on TikTok, share it. All the other ones, give us that thumbs up, hit the heart button, the thumb. You'd all know the drill. Help us spread the word and help jump in the comments. Introduce yourself. Let us know where you're from. And hey, let's show some love for the guys, right? It's long overdue. And that's really the purpose here. It's not about putting down women. It really isn't. It's about making sure that men in general get some love, some affection, some appreciation, but especially the heroes that are doing what they are doing and have been doing all along.
Credit where credit is due, guys. You can praise one person, put them in the spotlight for a moment without telling the other person you're worth, like, it's not a zero sum game. It is not either or. Compassion is not a limited resource. Praise one person does not mean you're telling everybody else to go to hell. um and I think that's part of the problem, though, is women and other detractors. It's not just women. There's plenty of guys out there, unfortunately, that I have seen that say, well, we don't do enough. And I'm like, really? Explain this to me, how you don't do enough. Have you just drunk the Kool-Aid, or have you bathed in it? Like, did you give yourself a Kool-Aid enema? Because
Ew. Ew.
because they're like, well, we don't do enough. I'm like, define enough. Um, because in most cases, the men I see that say we don't do enough, what they mean is I've not done enough,
I was just
and
say, I was just about to say.
I feel inadequate. Therefore, I'm just going to say that in order to make myself feel better about me, I don't want to be the only one. I'm just going to shit on all men and say, no, we don't do enough. And I was like, well, you may not do enough, Mr. Dan in the office with the lotiony hands. But the guys, the firefighters, the police officers, anyone who's in the military, hell, the electricians that respond in the middle of the night, the garbage men, the men who make the world go round, the truckers,
The sewer
the
workers.
sewer workers, they are the people who are like the HVAC guys who are up on a
That's a good one.
freaking roof and it's 102 degrees outside because the air conditioning isn't working and the women down in the building are complaining it's hot. I'm like, you think you're hot? What about the poor guys that are up there on your roof trying to fix your AC? Like, y'all refuse to work in unfair conditions because the temperature has risen above a certain degree. And there are actually companies, and I live in Texas, where it's hot 9 months out of the year. Right now, we're firmly entrenched in not autumn, it's autumn. Thank you very much.
Not much different here right now. It's
Not
almost
really.
90.
And so we have a couple companies that will not work in what they call unfair or unjust conditions, uncomfortable conditions. And it's like if the air ambient temperature raises to like above like 82 or 83 in the building, which is mostly like 90% women, so you can almost be guaranteed that they're the ones who made that rule. They won't work. In fact, they're allowed to just stop working if the AC stops working. They're not expected to work. Meanwhile, the all-male team on top of the roof in the 104-degree weather on a metal roof in the middle of Texas, they're supposed to just keep working to get the AC working, and they don't even get a thank you. It's just like, well, it's about time. And I'm like, I just want to just slap them. Like, the least you could do is, like, I don't know, offer them water, tequila, something.
Well, I don't know about tequila. That might not be a good idea up on a roof. But water, yes, or a nice homemade lemonade or something like that. Yeah, it was funny because the reason I threw out sewer workers is, like I said, we were flooding a couple of weeks ago. Now, my neighborhood, we had some flooding, but it wasn't horrible. But if the sewer workers hadn't come out, and I watched them because it was 3 doors down from my house. And I watched this guy. Now, mind you, there's 8 inches of water on the road, maybe somewhere around there. And I watched this guy walk up, pull the drain cover over, and go down in it with the water pouring over him to do whatever he did. And he fixed it because next thing I know, it was like watching it come out of a bathtub. It just right down, you know. And I sat there and I'm like, that man ain't paid enough. And I can tell you right now, he's probably making about $40,000 a year, maybe 50. To go down into a sewer line in the middle of a storm, no less, and do that. Can we show the guys a little love for doing that? You know, and you're just busy today, Lindsay. Everybody's coming for you. Go.
I left the door open and
go answer that if you need to. I got it.
The door is unlocked.
All right, but you know, that's the point of this is we need to start showing those men how much we appreciate them. Because I got news for you, they never hear it. They never hear it. They're told horrific things, you know, like you should be doing more. God forbid the AC is out or something like that. And the kids are really loud right now, just so you know. Woo! She's getting mad. She's getting mad. Let's watch. That's the first time I've ever seen Lindsay yell. This is the first time for everything. That's the first time in all the times we've been doing this I've ever seen you.
You didn't hear, but you didn't hear.
No, we didn't. But that head snapped around. I had flashbacks, man.
That's a phrase I never thought I'd say. As Dan's listening in my ear, I say, "Put the dog down."
But again, we as a society need to start showing some appreciation for these men instead of telling them they're toxic or they don't do enough or you need to step up or you need to change and do all this stuff. Society wouldn't exist without them. You'd have no power, you'd have no sewer, you'd have no water to drink, you'd have no food to eat, you'd have nothing. Nothing if it wasn't for men. And it's time that we acknowledge that as a society. For all this screaming about I don't need no man, well, there's a whole bunch of them sitting out in the western part of North Carolina that are hoping a man comes to save them right now. And I don't, I think most of them would appreciate it. The 95% of them would appreciate it, but that's the point. Oh man, Mama Squirrel about to snap some ass. Oh, next time leave the volume on so we can hear it. Go ahead, Lance. I'll let you talk.
Well, I mean, there's a meme out there that there's these group of women walking by this man who's in a manhole up to like his waist, so down. The purpose is that he's half underground, and these women walk by and it's like, God, stop oppressing me. Oh God, stop oppressing me. You're oppressing us. And he's doing physical hard labor. And I think that that particular meme is a very good snapshot of the sentiment that is being driven home here. It's men are oppressing us. I'm like, with by doing what? Picking your fruit, bringing you your vegetables. It's almost like I'm gonna get in so much trouble here. Women are bored, and because we're
Ooh.
bored, we have decided that we are being oppressed because we are bored.
I
And
got a
this is,
better word than bored.
well, yes, privilege. So, um,
Check
but
your privilege.
privileged women are usually bored women, and
Fair enough.
nothing good has ever come out of a group of bored privileged women. Prohibition comes to mind.
Now, how'd
Um,
that work out? And who was the ones that were most against it in the end? Women were, because they couldn't drink anymore.
but in
Spoiled. So, Boogie just said, I got a better word. Spoiled. Privileged,
spoiled,
spoiled.
spoiled.
Six and one, half dozen of another. Yeah, and again, like I said, I was just out in that area, and amazing people. And I've seen video. I'm going to go here. Again, we don't do politics a lot, but you probably, if you're on TikTok, you probably saw the video that went viral of the girls cheering on that it got leveled because, they don't agree with, they're not of her type. Let's just leave it at that. And I just sat there going, I was just out there. Asheville's about as left leaning a city as I've ever been in. And I've been in some left leaning cities. Chimney Rock, probably 50-50. Other areas, I would say, are more right leaning. You know what? Who cares? They all need help. And when it came to the men stepping up, they didn't ask, I'm sorry, are you going to vote for one person or are you going to vote for another? Because if you're voting for that one, I'm not going to help you. No, they helped everybody. And it just blows my mind to no end that we've even stooped to that level. I mean, I like I said, Asheville's about as left leaning a city as I've ever set foot in. I hope they get every bit of help as they possibly can, and none of them deserve that. None of them. And, I went to Asheville too when I was out there. And it was interesting because one of the things we did is we went down, they have a river walk, which is good. It's not Wilmington, but it's good. And that river walk no longer exists. It's gone. It's literally under feet of water. And I'm like, all those people, all those businesses, all those homes are gone. We show a little compassion and not get into politics. Can we not get into gender wars? Can we give credit to those that are doing what needs to be done to help these people? And yet I'm the bad person for doing all that.
We're the bad people for giving credit where credit is due. And the thing is that if ladies want their due credit, they have to be willing to give due credit to the men. because it's all about I can't say the damn word again. You know the word that starts with the R that I
Is
can
it
never say.
reciprocity you're trying to
That
say?
one,
I'm
reciprocity.
I'm
Thank you.
starting to I'm starting to be able to read your mind. That's not good.
No, and after
There's too many nuts up there and that squirrel's going to get. So I'm in trouble.
um but you get what you give. You get what you put out in the world. So one of the reasons why we always see when women complain because men aren't praising us for what we do
You
what
said
we
doo doo. They
do
love it when I say doo
do
doo
do
on
do.
videos.
um and I was like, okay, well, are we praising the men? Are we giving them credit where credit is due? Well, he wants a parade when he unloaded the dishwasher. Yeah, well, you want a fucking, sorry, gold star medal, purple heart for folding the laundry. So, I mean, that's it's the same thing. Or you're like, I made my husband a sandwich. Good for you. He brought you home a check that is thousands
He
of
bought
dollars
everything you used to make that
stuff for the
sandwich.
sandwich. So, um, oh, I got in so much trouble the other day because we're up at I was talking about how hard my husband's been working because Mr. Squirrely's worked. He worked 20 days straight, had 2 days off, and then now he's working 12 more days straight.
God bless
And
him.
with the exception of today, because I'm on live, when he comes home, one of the first things I do is he sits down and I take his boots off for him, his combat boots or his flight boots. And I mentioned that in mixed
Oh
company
God.
the other
Oh
day,
no, you
and I
didn't.
got the
Oh no, you
worst
didn't.
looks. Like, why would you do that? Like, just horror, like horror story. Like you'd think that I
Oh.
said that I, drowned babies or something. Um, and they're like, well, he can take his own shoes off. I go, I know he can, but he just worked from the ass crack of dawn until whatever time he comes home. It's his, I don't know what day off it is or day on it is, how many days it's been since
Right.
his last day off. It's the little things. You want him to praise you for doing the little things because it's, I'm not I'm not your mother, I'm not your maid. I deserve appreciation. Yes, you do. Guess what? So does he. And one of the ways in which I show my appreciation to my husband is I take his damn boots off.
Real quick, Al Cub B sent a hat and mustache. So,
Yeehaw!
and
Someone in the comments saying clutches pearls. Yeah.
yeah, you guys are starting to fire them up. And Country just said that's a $5 word because you swore, so you owe $5 to the kitty. Whistle noise. Lindsay is swearing. I want to read because this video I did a couple of weeks ago has gotten over 2,000 comments. It's on Facebook, so you can go find it there. I'm not gonna read all. If I read all the comments, we could have a whole show just on them. But this is one that was a woman that was very upset at me for pointing out that it was men responding and saving people. And she said, women do what they had to do. They're preparing meals, tea, coffee, hot chocolate on a camping stove. Sandwiches for the men and children and neighbors, and the women are there to comfort peoples with blankets and love. And she wants to be heroinized for doing all of that, but not give credit to the men who risked their lives saving people. That's what I'm talking about, and what Lindsay's talking about is, can we just give these guys a little credit for doing what they're doing and set aside the first responders? Not that I want, that's a really bad way to put it, but you get what I mean. And also show men in general, like Lindsay's husband, who is serving our freaking country, the sacrifices he's making. I'll take his damn boots off. Okay? I might make fun of him while I do it, and he certainly will make fun of me, no question.
Yes, he
Okay?
will.
But you get the point, right? If that's the least I can do for him for what he's sacrificing, I'd be glad to do it. So, when I finally get to meet him, I'll take his boots off. Because then he can make fun of me. And I'm good with that. I'm
We should
okay
make a
with it.
video of that.
We should.
We really should.
Well, that'll go viral. I'm game. I'm game. Um, it's and Country just said something really good. What happens the day the first responder said we've had enough? And that's the other thing. Thank you for bringing that up, Country, because I kind of had forgotten about it. One of the things that had several first responders comment, actually, let me rephrase that, ex first responders comment about, was that they had gotten out of it because it was a thankless job and they weren't appreciated all the sacrifices they make. And it kind of dovetailed with another video I did where, horror of horrors, I praised the police and stood up for them and explained to people that, you know, police officers, you think they just, because one said, oh, all they do all day long is drive around in cars. Yeah, okay. Last I checked, I bet that person isn't working overnights the first 5 years of their career, isn't working holidays, doesn't have to be away from their family in the middle of crises, etc. And again, it just speaks to that whole thing. Whereas I guarantee you that person, who was a man, by the way, would never say that about a female police officer. And when I happened to mention that, he went awful quiet. I have yet to hear a response to that one. So it kind of gets you the point of what we're trying to make.
Well, that's another thing is if a woman walks away from a hard position, it's like say nursing or something, or being a doctor. I had to walk away because it was just getting too much pressure and too hard, and I wasn't getting thanked enough. And she has made a strong, assertive decision for herself. Men who walk away are told, "You coward! How dare
Oh
you?
yeah,
How
oh yeah.
dare you hit your limit?" And I'm like, but wait a minute. She's being praised for walking away for her own personal safety and well-being, but he is told you should have stayed and made yourself miserable. Basically, you should have stayed and worked until the day you died at a thankless job, because it men are praised on, or not praised, but expected to do and never give up or never stop, because how dare they? Because then we notice their absence and then they're blamed for that too. So
Mm-hmm.
you're not thanked for your presence, but damn it, you can't be absent, because then they'll call you all sorts of names. Um and it's like, it's, well, you're damned if you do and you're damned if you don't, you're expendable. And someone else pointed out,
And disposable.
and
Right.
disposable,
And
easily
disposable.
disposable. And that's why when at the very beginning of the show, when the woman was saying, go look at history, I go, I've been a student of history all my life. I planned to
Yeah.
major in it when I was still in college. And I have looked at history extensively. I have looked at history, and throughout history, men have been expendable and disposable. We
And
talk
the
about,
first to step up when
and the
needed.
first to step up when needed. They're expected to. In many cases, they weren't allowed to. Take the First World War. The men who stayed at home were given white feathers and called cowards because they weren't willing to go over and die. Even the men who couldn't. So these are the old and infirm. So either the very young or the infirmed, the too old to do anything. And the too old to do anything were still called cowards because, oh, well, you obviously haven't given enough. You're lame. You can't walk, but you should still, I don't know, go over and do something. And then the men who were too young, the boys, were being encouraged to lie about their age. These are 13, 14-year-old, in some cases 12-year-old boys, were being encouraged to lie about their age so that they could go sign up and die. Because apparently, unless you're, by virtue of being male, you're just expected to just give until there's nothing left. And
Well, I'll give you the perfect example right now of that going on. And forget the politics side of it. Ukraine. There's literally an entire generation of men on both sides that is being wiped out. Literally wiped out, the casualties. Forget the political side of that thing or where you stand or who you. I don't care about any of that. Differentiate yourself from that stuff and just take a moment and think about it. There's an entire generation of men being wiped out. Russian and Ukraine. All right. And have you ever heard any conversation about it? Nope. I haven't.
the focus is on what's happening to the women and children and what they're
Exactly.
going through. And I'm like, but wait, now wait a minute. Um, if we can segue for a minute, someone commented, Burley Sullivan over on YouTube said, yeah, many women. married women love the status of being married more than the husbands themselves. Yes, they like
Good
the
point.
status that marriage gives them, the institute of being married gives them, but they don't much care for the people that got them to that position, meaning they would have just taken anyone. And in many cases, we do see them, they will take anyone. They have an idea in their head of this is what my perfect uh, spouse is going to be like, with their damn ridiculous mile high expectations that no one can reach ever, not even with a lunar landing craft.
It's a good one.
And rather than find the man that fits those expectations, there has to be at least one of y'all out there that fits all of them. Maybe three or four, but with
Well, I already told you, Linda. We've talked about this before. What the 4 6s that they always talk about.
yes.
There's less than 10,000 men in the entire
So
United
they do
States
fit them, but
that
they do
fit it.
exist. But the chances
But
of them wanting you
yeah, it's 150 million women trying to
is slim to
chase
none.
10,000 men, and
But
it's not going to
still,
work.
rather than what they'll do is rather than wait for someone that actually fits all of their points, they will find a random guy and start hacking off bits to try and fit him in the box.
Mm-hmm.
Or fill up the area around him if he's too small to fit the box. They'll fill up the areas around him with inadequacies. You're not this. You should be more this. Why aren't you more this? Why aren't you more that? So why did you marry someone or pick a guy and try and force him into this mold that you came up with in your mind that doesn't exist, not in a real man? And they're like, well, real men do this. I'm like, you've never met a real man. Your idea of man is from the pages of some smutty romance novel written by women that does not depict a healthy relationship at all. Because if the dude were ugly and poor, it would be a horror novel, not a romance. And then you inflict that made up fantasy made up by other women onto normal, everyday, wonderful guys that might have actually something wonderful to offer if you gave him a chance, but you don't. And then when he does show you how he's how he appreciates you, because if you really look, most men will bend over backwards to make their women happy. Now, it may not be roses and chocolates every day, but I read a really, really good story, and this is just adorable, is this woman loved the buttercream frosting off of cakes. And every time she would sit there and she would just eat the frosting. She'd stick her finger in. I hate it, but she would stick her finger in and get a dollop out no matter what. Well, her husband, who could never be claimed to be a romantic man at all, for one of her birthdays, went and got her a cake made completely of buttercream. So she stuck her finger in, expecting to get the cake, and then
Gotcha.
it just kept going. And she was thrilled, and he was thrilled because she was thrilled. Now that's not going to be on the cover of any romance novel. That's not going to be anything that anyone else talks about. But that's the kind of thing that a guy will do to show appreciation to the woman he loves. And I think it deserves recognition.
But Lindsay, that's the bare minimum.
Screw the bare minimum.
So, just a couple of things I want to do real quick is sorry, it scrolled forward. Here it is. So Derek Ellis brought up something a few minutes ago. The scariest thing I ever involved in was 9/11. I'll never forget what I saw and what people went through. I want you to think about go look up the first responders that passed away in 9/11 and explain to me how men are toxic. Those men ran into buildings not knowing what was going to happen and gave their lives willingly to help others. And you're going to sit there and tell me that all men are toxic. That this is the point that we need to make. We need to start appreciating men more because they do so much. It must, for some it's buttercream frosting. Apparently, I actually think it's cute too. Not something I would do, so that makes me a lesser man than that one. I'll be the first to tell you. But that man deserves appreciation. You hear all the time women go, "I can't find a man. There's no good men left." It's because your expectations are beyond absurd. We talked about the sixes. There's 10,000 men, by the way, most of them pro athletes, that fit the sixes. And there's 150 million y'all women. And if you think those 10,000 are going to take, Lindsay from the Midwest, sorry if you use Dan in yours, I got to use Lindsay in mine, who you're not, you're far better than a four, who's a
Thank you.
four and, is dead broke with a credit rating of 300, and whose main ability is ordering DoorDash. If you think that man's going to want you, I got some news for you, right? But yet, that's what they expect. And any man who doesn't meet the sixes is unworthy. He's not a man and all that stuff. That's the point we're trying to make. And we do need to show those men some appreciation. Beaten Cheeks, thank you for the support. He said we live in a delusional land. I feel bad for the blue collar workers that are maintaining our societal infrastructure that women ignore. I'll change ignore to take for granted. Some women use that infrastructure that they maintain. That's a very key point. Thank you for making that point because I want to give some love to all those guys. We kind of already did.
But then we get to use my favorite of all quotes.
Go for it.
Privilege is invisible to those who have it, and to those who are too used to privilege, equality feels like oppression. So we have a tired, many generations now, 3 or 4 generations now of women who have been, we are so privileged. Women in the West are the most privileged group of people that have ever existed in the history of the world. And we don't see the effort that men put in to keeping us in that privileged state with all of our modern conveniences and all of that, because we're so used to it, we just overlook it. If I'm out and about, I will thank the garbage men when they come by.
Oh, I've done that.
I've done that. I've also brought them water because it's hot as hell.
I have too, as well, yes. In fact, about a month ago I did, yeah.
I was taught that how you treat people that you might be better off than, not you are better than, because that's different. But
I get what you're saying.
How you treat people that society as a whole views less than you is the best mark of your character. I treat everyone the same. I am going to show the same amount of respect to a CEO that I would my garbage man. Or I'd probably actually be more willing to show much more respect to the plumber that shows up in the middle of the night because I broke a pipe or something, or my kid shoved something down. Yes, like, oh yes, you wise man, here, would you like some cake? Would you like a sandwich? Would you like this? Would you like that? Would you like my firstborn child? Because they're doing me a favor by coming out. Because you could, if I'm having a problem with like my credit card or something, the CEO of the company is not going to give me a personalized phone call. If I'm having a problem with my toilet, the fix comes to me, and that is deserving of all praise and all acknowledgement. And yet we see so often that it's just expected. It's become, oh yeah, you're supposed to do this. It doesn't matter. And we see this. I see this argument a lot with the trad wife type thing. Is, well, women are expected to do all this stuff. It's what we're supposed to do, and we aren't getting praised. Well, yes, you're supposed to do it, but you want praise for doing the things you're supposed to do, which that is a reasonable request. However, you are not willing to then turn around and afford that same acknowledgement to men. Instead, you ridicule them for, he comes to me happily, I folded towels. And I might joke at my husband, would you like a medal? But I don't mean it. That immediately follow it up with, thank you, honey, for doing that for me.
Do you know why men do that, Lindsay? Do you know the real reason men do that? Because it's never acknowledged. For women scream all the time, oh, he never pays attention to what I do. He never acknowledges all that I do. Ask a man the last time his wife sat down, looked him in the eye, and said, I appreciate you for doing all you do, and thank you, or any of that. Ask men that. And I will tell you, because I ran a poll on this a year and a half or so ago, the average man has never heard it. The next level was they heard it 2 years ago, I think is what the poll was. Many said, I've never heard it. I had a few that said they heard it within the last 3 months. The reason men do that is they want to be acknowledged, just like women do, but yet they're vilified for that.
Well, yeah, it was like I saying that women want the acknowledgement. Well, I did this, well, I did that, and they're looking for the acknowledgement. And it's okay when they ask, but the men
If a
are,
man does, though,
if a man does
oh,
it, oh, he wants to be praised for the tiniest thing. And I'm like, I just heard you give a 10-minute speech about how you wanted accolades for all the stuff. How is you recognize the desire in yourself, but you don't recognize the same desire and you damn them for it in someone else. Um Honestly, they can't see, they're cutting their nose off to spite their face, because if you praise a man, and I actually tell Mr. Squirrely quite often that I'm appreciative of all of he does. Usually when he's come home and has no idea what day it is, he's just flown in from God whatever country he started
that's when he needs it the
out
most, by the
in.
way.
And I have a really funny story about a faux pas that we happened in our house not too long ago. So he was leaving for Czech Republic, or Chesney, whatever it's called now.
Chechnya. You
Chechnya.
keep
Thank
doing
you.
this to me.
I'm
Again,
sorry.
I'm reading your
I'm
mind again. Oh,
sorry.
dear God. I'm going to start.
Thank you, Mr. Squirrely, for
What did he say?
He's correct. I'm getting corrected in surround sound now.
Tell him I had his back.
So he's walking out the door. He's getting ready to leave. It's the second half of his 20-day on orders without any breaks. And as I'm walking him to the door, I get a ding on my phone from my friend who's been my friend since we were in 6th grade. So she'll always be my friend because she knows where all the skeletons are buried. And it says, "Happy anniversary." I go, "What do you mean anniversary? Wait." And I look at him and go, "What day is it?" We both look at our calendar.
Oh, you didn't know. Oh, man.
We both forgot our wedding anniversary.
I guess that's okay.
And we both looked at each other and go, "It doesn't count if we both forgot."
Well,
And this isn't even the first time that it's happened.
Yeah.
But and guess what, guys? The world didn't end. And just because we both forgot our wedding anniversary does not mean that we are any less married. Like the
Or
world,
love each other
or that
any
we love
less, or any of that stuff.
any less. And I mentioned that to a friend of mine at the pool, and I guess some other people were listening, and they got very upset that I didn't get roses and chocolates and all of this, the Instagram crap.
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I can understand maybe if it was like our first or like a milestone, but it's our 16th. And we both forgot. And he's in a foreign country, and we're going on vacation for a week in October. That's kind of our anniversary trip thing. So it's just gonna have to wait. Like it's I'm not upset, but she tried really hard to make me upset. Like she was offended and upset on my behalf and felt that I needed to be as offended and upset as she was.
Right.
And I'm like, no, you can't convince me. And I see the unfortunate part is that I can withstand it, but there's so many women out there that don't. They cave to the peer pressure of other women around them, and they get what would not bother them, or they like, oh, it's fine, and then going and talking to other women or their girlfriends, then they come back and after that they're mad. And it's like, wait, you weren't mad before, you're mad now. What happened? And we're back to misery loves company.
All right, real quick, because we got about 20 minutes to go. Do us a favor. Thumbs up, hearts, whatever it is, whatever platform you're watching us on. Give us the love. Show us the thumbs up. Share this out, especially if you're on TikTok, because they are throttling the hell out of this. The numbers are horrific. I'm looking at them right now. I'm like, oh dear God. So show us the love. Share it. Comment. If you haven't jumped in, let us know. And I'm going to throw it out to the guys real quick. And then I got to do some thank yous. But real quick, if you're a guy, whether a long-term relationship, short-term, married, or whatever, let's say in the last, let's go year, have you had your significant other, wife, whatever you want to call her, ball and chain as I would refer to it, has she ever sat down, looked you in the eye, and told you how much she appreciated what you did? Something like that. Put it in the comments and let us know. Real quick, some thank yous. Alchemy for the coffee magic. Lucky John for the heart. Ernie Miley for the chili. I haven't seen chili before. Heart. Alchemy again for the heart. Whatever that. Oh, heart puff. Sorry. And Ernie sent us a hat and mustache. So
Yeehaw!
That gives us 3. Our goal is 5. I need 2 more given to us, people. All right, let me turn that off. So, again, we can it's a good time to start jumping into some of the comments. I'll let you handle YouTube, Lindsay, if you have it up.
Yes, I have.
Um,
So I got a lot of nevers and nos, and this is another really sad thing. It's like men never get flowers except on their funeral is the first time they get
after they
flowers.
die, they get them. Yeah.
So, well, when I sent you that message, what was it, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, so whatever now, I
Hmm.
sent you little flower emojis. I'll
I
send my
remember
guy
that.
friends flower emojis because I think it's horrible that men are not given just flowers. I give my sons flowers. I'll pick flowers
Yeah.
on the side of the road and I'll give them flowers.
And it was a little over 2 years ago, and the fact that I know that tells you how much it meant to me and how rarely it happens.
But I do that with my boys because they will see from they
Get
will
ready,
see
girl.
from me. Just let me
Oh
do
dear
it.
God! No, you have no idea. All right, you ready? I'm gonna
Yes.
interrupt you. Lucky John, heart and mustache, go.
Yeehaw!
Ernie Miley.
Yeehaw!
Ernie Miley again
Yeehaw!
and again.
Yeehaw!
Guys, you are awesome. Lucky John,
Yeehaw! God damn.
help
Oh.
me.
Yeehaw!
And again. You guys rock. Thank you.
Yeehaw!
And I'll tell you what, I don't know what that'll total out to, but I will take that money, the little bit that it is, and I will add it to my pool that I am donating to help the people out in Western North Carolina.
In that case,
Um,
thank you so much, and I will do that
yes,
until I go horse.
yes.
Yes,
So,
spelled horse.
I mean, I don't get a lot out of this, just so you know, and we don't do this for the money, but I am going to donate all of that. I probably should have said that earlier. Um, and try and help them out there as much as I can. Thank you all for all of that. Just a blanket clap. Getting back to the comments, there was one I missed and it keeps scrolled. That was on YouTube.
I got a
Countries.
funny one on YouTube.
Okay, well,
Science.
country said I'd be happy to do that for my spouse, meaning do the things that various men do, I guess is the way to put it. But I can't even get a date, even though I'm 6 foot. But I'm not muscular enough, nor do I make enough to get their attention. And that's a classic example of a really good guy, because Country's on with us every week. Awesome man, hard worker. He's blue collar, as he said earlier. And you're getting passed over for the only other reason is you're just not perfect enough. Welcome to every man's world, except for that 10,000 out of all 150 million men in the U.S. How sad is that? So, ladies, if you're listening, this is what we're talking about.
Ladies, if you're listening, there's every possibility that he might make more later on down the road. So if you won't take him with nothing, you don't deserve him with everything.
And smartass sent another. Come on.
Yeehaw!
I want her going horse. Pun intended. Get it? Hat, mustache with the cowboy hat. Keep them coming, Keep. This is fun.
But back to the thing with the flowers.
Yes,
I
go ahead.
set the example for my sons of this is what not only in how I treat them, but also how I treat their father. That this is what they are to expect. This is the standard I'm setting for any women in the future. And if you can't meet my standard in the future, you're not getting anywhere near my child, my son. Ladies, this is for
For you.
the men in the what is it, the stereotypical dad with the shotgun for the daughters. Well, same here for me, ladies, except I won't threaten you.
Mine's over in the corner. That reminds me. I don't know why you just triggered this, but earlier you were talking about something, and something popped in my brain, and we were talking about the blue collar workers, right? You were talking about if the plumber showed up in the middle of the night or something like that. Who's the because I don't know who's the it guy celebrity wise hot guy right now? Gosling, is that what that one?
Ryan Gosling, but there's also Henry Cavill, who seems to
All right,
be every woman's.
was it Henry Cavill?
Henry
Is he a
Cavill.
Superman?
Yes.
All right, let's
He's
pick
also
him.
the Witcher. He grimes up
So
good.
let me ask you, ladies, rhetorical question. If you're a woman listening in, why do you want him so bad? And why do you think he would want you versus the average guy who would show up and do anything um, and be there for you? What makes you want Superman, because I don't remember his name already, versus the average guy. Because, and by the way, which one do you think you got a better shot at getting? And which one do you think actually would care more about you? Because that's really what it comes down to. That would be like me thinking I'm going to date myself, Kathy Ireland, who, by the way, at 60 whatever years old, is still smoking hot. All right. But Kathy ain't going to be looking my way anytime soon. Giselle might, but Giselle couldn't even keep a man happy.
Hell, Taylor Swift can't keep a man happy, and that's why she makes so many
Oh my
songs.
God. I mean, again, ladies, let's have some realistic expectations here. And if you want to keep chasing Superman or I don't know who else there is out there, I don't pay attention to this stuff. And what makes you think celebrities are all that? And again, who do you think is going to take better care of it? Who's going to take better care of society? Some guy that's up on a movie screen or some guy who's out in the middle of a freaking storm climbing a pole to put your electricity back up? Who matters more? And the women universally would say the guy on the movie screen.
But the guy on the movie screen is only as brave as you think he is because someone has written a script for him. He didn't come out with the words himself.
D. Conrad just said, "Pish, I'm a straight guy and I kind of want
I
it."
saw that, yeah.
Well done, sir. Well done. Uh, but I mean, again, we glorify these unrealistic guys. Actors, do they have a skill set? Sure, but basically they're trained monkeys. They
Well,
repeat words that they've been told to say. That's what they do.
that's the irony is that the women want the guy they see on screen, but the guy on screen isn't even the guy they see on screen doesn't exist, not even in the actor that's
Yeah.
playing it because they're fed lines. Uh I've heard actors that are off screen
Oh God, some of them are dumber than a box of rocks.
dumber than a box of
Oh my
rocks.
God, some of them.
I will say that I actually do like Henry Cavill just because he was asked the question Star Wars or Star Trek, and his answer was Stargate, and that won my approval right there.
Well, kind of going down this road, so I've talked about this not too long ago on here. There was a movie being filmed in upstate New York near Albany, where I lived, um, and Eva Mendes was in it, and she was one of the hot chicks at the time. And Buddy and I went down to be extras. They didn't pick me because hello, whereas they did pick my buddy because he's very good looking, and he got to meet her, and she is a witch, dumber than a box of rocks, and an absolute witch, and a chain smoker, by the way. Right? She literally would. The director would go cut. She'd toss the cigarette, but she was heroified as the ideal woman. That's what I'm talking about, except it's in reverse, right? You think these actors are all that. Most of them take the makeup off. Oof.
Well, a lot, and I still maintain that if your facial recognition software on your phone does not work with or without makeup, you're wearing too much of
Is
it.
that a thing, really? I don't use
Yes.
it, so.
In many
Really?
cases, facial recognition, not like the FBI facial recognition software,
You're
but like
talking
the stuff
about
on your
this.
yes, will not recognize certain people's faces when
Oh,
they're
we
not
so have to make a video of doing that. Oh, God, yes. That would be awesome.
And the thing is, I'm looking at these women who their faces change, and I'm like, if you've never seen the video, I need to send it to you. It's a woman saying that if the men find out we can shapeshift, they're going to tell the church, and it's these women
I
go
need to
from
see that one.
it's hilarious. But the amount of makeup these women put on, I don't even own that much makeup. I could wear every bit of makeup I own and still look like me. And it is a skill, but at the same time, it's also false advertising.
True dat.
Um,
That's why the not first date, but
and then
first 5 dates should be swimming.
the same women are always the ones that comment on my looks, like I should be wearing makeup. I was like, I'm sorry, I'm not intimidated or insulted by a woman whose face can be factory reset by a baby wipe. Go try that shit with someone else. And it's always interesting that the same women who will sit there, it's a little bit of a tangent, but the same women who would sit there and say that, oh, well, I'm secure in my looks and we should be upholding other women. Yay, girl power. Yes, queen. Are the first ones to, when they disagree with a woman, they attack her looks. I'm like, now, wait a minute.
Oh yeah,
What
they
was all
do
that you
too.
just said? Which is why I
Oh
say
yeah.
that sisterhood doesn't exist.
But getting back on topic, although I love what you were just saying. You know, like there's a bunch of guys. I'm a blue collar. RJ said I'm a blue collar man. I work in a gold mine. Wow. I mean, imagine that. That type of work's got to be brutal, right? Coal miners. I've seen documentaries on what they go through, and not that coal is now a bad thing, but coal powered the U.S. for centuries. Um, you look at all the stuff that men do, the so-called blue collar men. They're the ones that we should be calling the heroes, not some guy up on a movie screen. The blue collar guys should be the ideal. The first responders that are risking life and limb right now, as we're talking, right this second, they're out there trying to save people's lives. They're the heroes. Those are the men that the women should want. But no, they want the guy with the perfect chiseled chin, the full flowing hair, the six pack abs that's got $5 million in cash in his pocket, you know? And that's like Angel just said, the movie franchise, The Expendables, is how men are viewed in society. I've seen you post that a couple times. You're right. It's men are expendable. But without those men, society collapses like that. Who's going to
Uh,
re? By the way, who's going to rebuild all of Western North Carolina and South Carolina? I guarantee you, it ain't going to be the feminists.
no, see, and
Nope.
I find this incredibly ironic that they'll talk about oppression. I'm like, oppression is oppressive all the time. If you get to pick and choose when you're oppressed, then you're not oppressed. And you're all for feminism when it suits you. But as soon as you're asked to pull the work and actually practice what you preach, suddenly you are resorting to, I'm a good trat wife. Look at me at home.
Yeah,
And I'm
I
like,
I'm helping out by making
I'm helping out
what
by making sandwiches. I'm like,
we're
2 weeks ago, you got mad if anyone said the word sandwich to you.
I mean, Lindsay, I've had dozens of them comment on that Facebook
I
post saying
know,
that, and I'm
great.
like, I thought this was oppression, and they're so proud of themselves now. Well, I'm staying home to take care of the kids. 2 weeks ago, you were telling me that was a bad thing. Well, men don't do that. Yeah, they do, but you don't let them because you want them to risk their lives while you stay home and take care of the kids, or make the sandwiches, or what was the one, get the hot cocoa ready on the camp stove. Ooh,
Now, I'll be
I
the
mean,
first to tell you that I don't want to go out there and go into the water, and I will do the camp stove thing, but I will not demand a medal for doing so.
again, we're not trying to diminish what those women are doing, but let's not put them on a pedestal for doing it any more than you should put me on a pedestal for anything I've done, either a couple of weeks ago in Carolina Beach or what I hopefully will be able to do in the next couple of days, driving stuff out there. So what? I give up a day of my life to fill a van, drive a bunch of water and whatever else out, drop it off, and come home. I am not a hero. I don't want praise for doing that. I don't deserve praise for that compared to those guys who are literally working 72 hours straight without sleep, trying to get to people who have no food and water. Let's give them the credit they rightfully deserve. That's my point.
And and the thing is that these guys don't want a
That's the other.
parade. They just want to thank you. A heartfelt,
They just
sincere
want to be acknowledged. They would even,
thank you.
yeah, and without some sort of caveat attached to it. Thank you for everything you do. We appreciate it. But hey, don't forget, women made sandwiches. Just give them some love and let them embrace it and enjoy it. Because, like we were talking about coal miners, and I've seen a couple people talking about that. I couldn't do that job mentally. Physically, I probably could. Or, well, not now, but when I was younger, mentally, to go down hundreds of feet into the ground. I mean, I've been down in caves. But to do that day after day and chisel away at rock trying to dig out things like gold, that somebody mentioned gold or coal or whatever. I mean, look at coal miners coming out of a mine. And yet, if they didn't do their job, if the men didn't run the electrical lines, if they didn't run the sewer lines, if they didn't, I don't know what else there is. There's so many. Pick up the garbage. Society would cease to exist in hours. Hours, not days, hours. Can we give them a little love and a little credit?
Well, the women in, I think it's Iceland or something, all went on strike one day,
Oh, they
didn't go
tried
to work.
that.
They tried that. They and quite a few of them did. Um,
About half
about
the country.
half.
Yeah,
And
it was the most productive day they ever had.
the world kept on turning. The same would not be true if half the men in the country didn't go to work.
Well, all right, RJ just said, I'm a blaster. I'm the one who sets the charges in the mine just to get the gold out. God bless you, brother. It's not a job I could do. No, nor would I want to, but I know damn well how important that job is. Because, yes, you're trying to get gold out, and some of it probably goes for rings, but every computer we use, every cell phone,
Circuit boards,
electrodes
anything,
everywhere,
all of it.
circuit boards wouldn't exist. This would not exist if it wasn't for people like RJ. So let's give RJ and all the other guys that do this stuff some credit for doing that because, like I said, society would end like that if they didn't. All right, we only got a couple of minutes left. I just want to give a shout out to all of you who are doing what you can to help those out that are struggling in the various mountain states, I guess is the way I'll put it. I talk primarily about North Carolina, and I say that because I live here. It's not to diminish what people in Florida, even some parts of Florida got decimated, South Carolina, Tennessee, Georgia, all of them. Um, God help all of those people. And if you can, donate to them. Money is the best thing to do. There's various charities out there. There's the Red Cross. I'm not pitching any particular charity. Find one, make sure you vet it, that it's a real one, and donate even a buck, guys, because trust me, they're awesome people. I've been out there, and they didn't deserve this. And we're talking decades to rebuild. I've heard people say it'll take a couple of years. We're talking decades. They've lost not only their homes, they've lost their businesses, they've lost their places of employment. It's all literally been wiped off the face of the earth, and they're not going to recover anytime soon. All right, Lindsay, what else you got before we wrap things up?
Uh, not really anything else. Just there's a lot of talk. Where is that one? I saw a comment. Where did it go? Where
Well,
did it
while you're
go?
looking for it, everybody, quick hearts, thumbs up, likes, all that stuff. Give us a blast of them to finish things up, and I'll let Lindsay find her. Did you find it?
Oh, I'm a French ambulance driver, and I'm proud of my job to help everyone. On my first ever night shift as an ambulance driver, I helped a woman have a baby in my ambulance. So yes, they need all of the.
And it's ambiance. That's how they say it.
Yes, I know, but
Ambiance.
I flunked French.
I didn't. I was actually fluent into it. Well, I forgot most of it. All right. That's a good one to wrap it up on. Lindsay, how can they follow you real quick?
I have not, as many people have noticed, been active on TikTok lately.
Yeah, what the hell?
I wake up daily to comment bans, strikes, and video violations. So I've kind of just
Yeah, our days on TikTok are
are
numbered,
numbered.
guys.
But if you're looking for old videos, I am Squirrel Girl 1988. I am in the process of getting all of my TikTok stuff up on my YouTube channel as time, children, and husbands allow. Um, and I'm also Squirrel Girl 1988 up there as well. Same as on Twitter or X and Instagram. Squirrel Girl and all of it.
And if you're watching this, you're on my channels for now. We're going to be putting channels up soon for Boy Meets Squirrel. My channel is basically all butt banned on TikTok. So your best bet is start following me on YouTube, Insta, and X. I'm also on Facebook and a few other places. Just look for Men Need to Be Heard. You'll find me. Because my days on TikTok, whether it's them getting rid of me or me saying F you to them and walking away, are coming. Although I mentioned that in a video and I got so many people begging me to stay. I don't know yet, guys. I got to think about it. So, on that note, we're going to wrap it up. And don't forget, we are live every Wednesday from 4 to 5:30. And soon we'll be doing another weekend show. In fact, Lindsay and I have to talk about it as soon as we go off the air. Till next week, guys.
Bye.